with us some special guests, and we'll get to the reasons why we are here today in a moment. But Chief Don Smoke would like to open up our session together with a prayer. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Please join me in prayer. How are you today? Whatever that means to you, just join me in prayer. Oh, at that Wakataka, that you can listen. Uka, yeah, he oh, be that true. Yeah, Chappie. In fact, you never quickly not take you. Oh, Tigashira, Wakataka, Daku Waka, Wakushira, Pidana. We choni can get Pidana. Oh, that can then, you know, open that Tigashira, Wakataka. Amen. Oh.
Thank you, Rich. We are here today, Truth and Reconciliation. This is what this week is, Truth and Reconciliation Week. We're all familiar with Orange Shirt Day, which is September 30th, and it is now a holiday in the province of Manitoba. Thank you, Premier Wabkanu. Thank you for that. And it's meant for you to remember. It's meant for you to celebrate and honor the memory of survivors and the impact it had in Canada, particularly those families that are still impacted by that. And we actually are all impacted by the effects of that. So we are here today because there was an event in June that was held on the Dakota Plains Wahpeton Nation. Thank you. I've been practicing, trying. And basically, the city of Portage and Prairie, demonstrated what reconciliation looks like. Before reconciliation, though, we have to speak the truth. There are some hard things that we have to speak about and talk about. People, all Canadians have to learn about have to learn the true things that have happened, and people have to be given the space to share their story and the impact it has had. So without truth, we can't have reconciliation. On this event in June, there was great truth spoken, and when truth is spoken, we can start to reconcile. We can start working towards relationship building. And that's even not just on this national platform, that's also with your relationships with friends, partners, all things. You have to tell the truth to one another in order to build a healthy relationship, whether that's friendship, romantic, family, whatever that looks like for you. And if there has been something that has happened that was dishonest or it hurt you, we have to talk about it. And once we talk about it, we can repair and we can work towards progress. And City of Portage and Prairie and the Dakota Plains work together on reconciliation. Okay, and so we're going to just show you a little clip. It's a 5-minute clip of the video. Did all of you already see it? No. Okay, so we're going to, next slide please. There's a little video picture there.
Work on moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. I'd ask if I could have a motion for the waiver of the minutes to the next meeting. Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Porter. All those in favor? And that is carried. We have one item of new business today. We have the acknowledgement and apology for 1911 Council Resolution. This falls under Community Services Committee. Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Worship. As stated, the issue is to formally acknowledge and apologize for past mistakes of the city in order to rebuild relationships with our Indigenous partners. One of Council's top strategic priorities is to make meaningful steps in reconciliation with our Indigenous partners. Part of that process is acknowledging our city's past actions that were blatantly racially motivated and sent a clear message that First Nations people were not welcome to live in our city. Most notably, but not exclusively, the 1911 resolution carried by City Council asking for the removal of Dakota people from the city boundaries. We cannot move forward unless we speak about our past. understand how it has impacted the Dakota people, and learn from it as a community. On March 20th, 1911, the Council of the City of Portage Prairie passed the following resolution: that the Secretary be instructed to write the Indian agent suggesting that in the opinion of this Council, it is advisable to have the Indians removed from their present location in the city, owing to their habits of drinking and immorality. Also, the fact that when the children leave their school, they have nothing to look forward to. In our opinion, it would be advisable to have them placed where they would have more land for farm purposes. As a result of the resolution being unanimously passed, a letter was sent to the City Secretary Treasurer from City Secretary Treasurer to Portage's Indian agent requesting that the Indian Department in Ottawa take steps to remove Indians farther from temptation and give some land to work, and thus promote or induce habits of industry and self-support. The current Council of the City of Portage Prairie recognizes the 1911 resolution as symbolic of the racism felt by Indigenous people here in our city. They wish to formally apologize to the Dakota people and move forward toward rebuilding relationships. To further recognize the importance of this step towards reconciliation, Council will be naming a green space on Island Park Dakota Oyate Park, meaning Dakota people. It will be marked with a commemorative plaque and help educate current and future generations. It is the administrative recommendation that the Council of the City of Portage Prairie acknowledge the damaging resolution passed by Council on March 20th, 1911, and offer a sincere apology on behalf of the city, and that Council approve the naming of Dakota Oyate Park. And I so move.
Moved by Councillor Espy, seconded by
I will second, your worship.
Councillor Doyle. Councillor Massey, how do you vote?
I vote in favor, your worship.
Thank you. Councillor Meyer, how do you vote?
I vote in favor, your worship.
Thank you. Councillor Espy, how do you vote?
I vote in favor, your worship.
Thank you. Councillor Porter, how do you vote?
I vote in favor, your worship.
Thank you. Councillor Nichols, how do you vote?
I vote in favor, your worship.
Thank you. Councillor Doyle, how do you vote?
I vote in favor, your worship.
That is carried unanimously. We will adjourn this special meeting of council at 5:21 p.m. Thank you. We will adjourn this special meeting of council at 5:21 p.m. Thank you.
Premier Wapkanu was present and greeted the crowd. He also celebrated.
So we just wanted to show you why we wanted to talk about this event and this historic apology. We have two honorable guests with us to speak about their experience and share some wisdom with you. First off, we'll introduce Her Worship Mayor Charlotte Knox, and Charlotte will offer a tobacco offering. I'll let Charlotte talk about that.
My name is Charlotte Prince. I'm one of the Indigenous Academic Achievement Facilitators, Jane. I'm going to be offering tobacco to Chief Donnie and Mayor Knox. In case you don't know, when we ask for a gift or for sharing in our Indigenous culture, we offer tobacco just so that we help them good words and we ask them to share their gift and their words, and so this is why we offer them tobacco. I also say we go ahead and down my name for both of you taking time out of your schedule.
Thank you, everyone. I am honored to be here and incredibly happy to see the amount of students that are here today. And to me, a perfect way to start off Truth and Reconciliation Week. Since June, I've been really asked by a lot of people why we worked with Dakota Plains on this ceremony and this apology. Well, I can say that when I became an elected official back in 2018, I started as a counselor. talked about this 1911 resolution. It became knowledge about something that happened in our past, and that we as councillors knew that it was something that we wanted to acknowledge and recognize and make amends.
Forever glad you're here. What's often?
The big thing though is that was 2018. Why did it take us till 2024 in order to make this apology? What I have really learned since I've become part of council and working with other councils and First Nations is that we move reconciliation at the pace of trust. So it wasn't something that we as a city could just say, yeah, we did something terrible back in 1911, we're going to apologize to it, we're going to have a ceremony at some place, and we hope that Dakota will show up or they'll listen to it. That's not the way reconciliation works. Reconciliation works when we work together and we understand each other, and it took a lot of conversations and a lot of learning. I've known Chief Smoke for a long time on a personal basis and a little bit of a basis, but if I could tell you the amount I've learned from him and other First Nations leaders in the last few years about understanding our past and our history and how it has affected First Nations people, how it's affected their families and people around them, that's what's made us equipped to move forward in this act of reconciliation. It took a long time. We're grateful that we had this and that we did this. People often ask me too about, we have another Dakota here just outside of Portage, Prairie, Dakota Teepee, and people often ask me, why wasn't Dakota Teepee a part of this apology and this ceremony, etc.? And they weren't ready at this time to be a part of that. They look at things, the way they look at things are a little different, and they chose not to do that at this time. That's okay. Because like I said, reconciliation moves at a pace of trust. And we find lots of ways to be able to work together and to move forward in reconciliation. Our council, I'm very grateful that we have a council that believes in this and learns about it and wants to move forward. I'm grateful that we're moving forward in many ways because, ceremony and action are one thing, but ceremony is one thing, and saying that we want reconciliation, but now we're at a place where we're able to move into more action. We can talk about, we're just entered a new program together with Dakota Plains, with Long Plain First Nation and us, which is an economic development program that we're working together. We're excited to provide more opportunity for all of us in Portage, Prairie, surrounding area, our First Nation partners, and so that's action that we're looking at. I just think that reconciliation is really about understanding each other and about recognizing the harms of the past. The way I look at it is I'm a big believer in secrets make you sick. And so something like having this 1911 resolution where our council pretty much said Dakota people are not allowed in Portage or Prairie, and we moved them away, right? But nobody talked about that. Certain people knew it happened. There's so many people since June who have been like, I had no clue that this ever happened in our past. But I believe that we bring those things out of the darkness, we talk about them, we talk about the effect that they've had on people, and then that gives us the opportunity to move forward in healing and trust. But it takes time, it's not overnight. We know we have a lot to learn together. We have a long way to go, but I'm grateful for Chief Smoke, I'm grateful for Chief Reaches in Long Plain. I'm grateful for all of our Indigenous leaders that we can work together on towards improving things for the people of our city, the people of our surrounding area, our First Nations, because all we want is a healthy, safe community for all.
Out of respect for my elders who fought so hard to keep our language and our culture alive, I just want to open up my Dakota tongue. So I want to start off by saying, Holy Takiaki, Makota, Toriate, Abdizio, Ushida, Makiate, Dakota Plains, Beto, Royate, Achia, Mahi, Makancha, Chantel, Shteo, Was, the Chizati. What I said was, good afternoon, all my relatives. When we say Mitakiaki, that means we're all related. It means everything in this world. It means the rocks and the plants and the earth, everything. And I said, my name is Chief Don Smoke. My Dakota name is a boy who looks out over his people. A name I take very serious. My grandfather gave me that name when I was just a little boy. I guess he saw something in me that pointed towards being a leader one day. And I said, I shake all your hands with a good heart, and I thank you for having me here today. So again, my name is Don Smoke. I'm from Dakota Plains, and I'll start off by telling you, both of my parents went to residential school. And because of that, our little family struggled growing up. It was a tough house. I always say my mom did a great job bringing us up in a semi-broken home. And I say that because my mother was able to hold on to her culture and her language, and that is what helped her to heal and get through life. My father struggled a little more because of residential school, and he never really talked about it until his dying days. He passed away in October of 2021, and we're going on 3 years now. And before that, he never talked about it, and when we asked the questions, he would tell us that everything was fine. Everything was hunky-dory, but before he passed, he told me a few things that were pretty sad, but it explained a lot as to why my father acted the way he did. He was one of the nicest men you would have ever met until he touched the bottle, and then he was a very angry man. So we were able to get through that just before my father passed, and I'm very grateful to this day for that. I'm also very grateful to my unka, Okizi Maza, who his name is Grandpa Half, he's from Sioux Valley First Nation, and he was a very cultural man, but he was also an Anglican minister, which was very odd for that era when everything was going on. He was part of the church, but he practiced it a little bit different, so he taught us very well to be cultural and taught us to believe in Christianity. So very, very unique man. He taught himself how to speak. He didn't go to school. He went to grade 1, and then he ran away, and he became an Anglican minister. So very powerful man. I guess that's why his name was Okizi Maza, which means half fire. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about truth and reconciliation. In 2015, the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs and some survivors, some residential school survivors, decided that it was time to start to tell the truth. And that's where things start. Like Mayor Knox said, it starts with the truth, and you need to get that out there. A lot of the things that I was told and that I heard, they were hard to believe. But like I said earlier, it explained to me why certain people were they were, the way they were in my life, watching them struggle and watching them have hard times. So it starts with the truth. So in 2015 they started it. And they started to do these different interviews with survivors from across Canada. And I'm happy to say Canada is the only Western country that took the initiative to start this process. So I'm very proud of Canada for doing that and allowing that and for funding it and for starting that process. So Canada is a great place. It's a great country, and I'm very grateful for them for allowing that to happen, because at the end of the day, the federal government, they control how things happen. Right? And so I'm very grateful to Canada, and I'm very grateful that the truth is out there now. Now we talk about reconciliation. And in 1911, our people were basically removed from a plot of land that we actually purchased. Our ancestors actually chipped in back then, $200, which was a lot of money back then. And they went to the Indian agent and they they said, we want to own this land. And from what I'm told, they said, we know we already own this land because we're the rights-bearing nation here. Anywhere that the buffalo roam is where the Dakota roam. So we claim that as our land. So we were the rights-bearing nation. So we own that land already, historically, but to do things right, we purchased it with cash that our people were making, helping farmers in the area. But even though we own that, they came along and they told us that we had to move, that they were taking that land away from us. Any farmers in here? Can you imagine? You know, you obviously own that land, right? Can you imagine somebody coming along and saying, you know, you purchased this land, we're cultivating it, we're doing the best as a family to look after it and survive off of it, but we're going to take it away anyway. Imagine that. There would be an uprising, right? But we didn't have the means to do that back then because we were looked at as refugees in the area, as the Dakota people. We're not a treaty land. To this day, we're still looked at as, maybe not refugees, but we just finally got the recognition as Canadian Indians. We had a federal apology in Saskatchewan a couple of months ago, and the federal government said, same thing as Portage, we're sorry, we realized what we did, so now you have rights, Section 35 rights as a nation, like other treaty lands. You did not have to sign the treaty. So when I talk about being a rights-bearing nation, I mean it. Where the buffalo roam, that's where we were. And that's a lot of North America. And so by the government saying that, admitting that, they're admitting that we're due something. And so Portage and Prairie, being a progressive council, came to me and asked if we would be interested in an apology. Of course we said yes. It's a start. It's an admission that we were taken from land that we own twice and removed to an area. And if you listen to the motion, Mr. Espy was reading in there, it says they're moving us to an area where there's more farmland. That was a lie. We actually got moved to swampland. And over the years, we've developed it. It's a beautiful community now. There's a lot of bright things happening in our community today. It took a lot of work, but it took a lot of reconciliation, and it took a lot of hard work on our people to start doing it. And by being here today, you're taking part in truth and reconciliation, because you're hearing me as a leader from the First Nation community, and hopefully you're believing me when I tell you these things happen. Did anybody believe a thing that I said when I said my prayer? Did anybody understand what I said? Besides Ms. Prince. The reason why I did that was, I could have said anything as a Dakota in my language. And when I was praying, heck, I could have cursed you all, right? Imagine being those first people that came here, and you heard our people speaking like that. There's not too many bad words in our language as a Dakota. All of our words, they're uplifting, and they're based around the creator of this world. The very word Dakota means ally. It means I'm your ally. But what I said in my prayer was, I thank the Creator for this day. I thank Him for each and every one of you. And I thank Him that no matter what this day brings, that He's with us. So remember that. I imagine the first settlers came along here and thought, what an evil language. What a heathen language. They didn't understand it. And they didn't want to take the time to understand it. But thank you for taking the time to understand me and my language and myself as a Dakota. And I'm very happy for the city of Portage and Prairie, who's very progressive, and we're going to move forward in a good way, and we're all going to heal in the area. So I'm going to say to you, Nina Wupita, which means thank you very much.
Thank you, that was really powerful. I get emotional with speaking about truth and reconciliation, especially hearing the impact it's had on families and people. It's impacted my family as well. I share the stories and I carry them with me in my heart. And just know that in this work, that's why I'm here to do it. Okay? With that, I asked your teachers if any of you could think of some questions. Is there any questions out there that you might be willing to ask? Or whisper in my ear and I can ask for you? This is a time to speak to the Mayor and Chief of Dakota. This is an amazing opportunity that you will have. Is there any questions? Yeah.
What can I do to be chief?
That's a great question, actually. My community, we do not have elections. Like I said earlier, we're the Buffalo Road, we're from the States as well. So we don't have First Nations Elections Act, right? Ours is hereditary. So if you look at this beautiful peace bonnet here, a lot of people want to call them war bonnets, but I was taught by my elders that this is a peace bonnet. So I carry this with me in a good way when I go to talk, negotiate, do those types of things. Each feather on there, I've earned over the years. It took me 27 years to earn that. When I got out of university, they had plans for me to be chief. But 27 years later, I finally got it, just before my father passed. So, good deeds. Find something that you believe in, something that you'll fight for. Every day when I wake up and people know this about me, I go to work for our children. And I fight for our children. I fight for a better future. And I fight for families. So believe in something good, and work hard. And don't ever let anybody tell you no. And be proud of who you are. Like most everybody here. You know, one of the things I always tell people is Dakotas are different than other nations, even though we're all brown. And I'm very proud of my brown skin. And each and every one of you should be proud of yourselves as well. So, hope that answers your question. Thank you.
I would say it's the only thing that we found in writing. But I mean, there's going to be you're going to find in history that there's going to be racist decisions made for sure. It's just, I hate to say it, it's who we are as a country and municipalities. So, but really the only one that we've found so far that is very blatant. Yeah. So for the question back there about becoming chief, on this day actually, Premier Canoe named me a chief, so I can tell you how to become mayor too. So there, yeah.
Actually, that was one of the questions in a previous class. They sent me a question was, why are there so many council representatives from the city? And I thought that was a great question.
Why are there so many
Councilors.
Oh, why do you have? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we have our council has a team of 7, so mayor and 6 councilors, which is quite an average size for a council. You'll see some councils that have 10 or 12 people. We find ours very efficient. And the way our council works is that each councilor has a different portfolio. So we have a public safety chair, we have a finance chair, we have a community services chair. So everybody has different responsibilities. And you need that type of team to make decisions. People often say, well, you as the mayor get to make all the decisions, and it's just not the case. I'm one vote. So the one thing is that we have men and women. We have 2 women on council, myself and 1 woman. There was only 1 woman who ran for council, so we would love to see more gender parity on our council. We have Métis representation on our council. What we don't have is First Nations representation on our council, and it's something that we would absolutely love to see in the future. So 2 years from now, the one thing you have to be on council is living for 2 things. Live in the city of Portage, Prairie, and be 18 years old. So definitely something we love to see.
we are still looking for a youth representative.
We are looking for a youth counselor right now, actually. Application deadline's at the end of this week, and so when you become a youth counselor, you are a sitting member of council. You get to come to all the meetings. You get to learn about how council works. You're going to get the opportunity to meet other youth counselors across the province. And you help us make decisions that you're the future of our city, so we want to know what the future of our city wants our city to look like. So that's why we have a youth counselor. If you have any questions about the application, talk to Bradford or Mr. Green.
Yeah. Any other questions? So you mentioned an economic plan. So what is that? What can you speak a little bit about that?
We were successful in our application to a national program called SETI, which is Municipal Community Indigenous Economic Development Initiative. And what it is that ourselves, Dakota Plains, and Long Plains, we applied jointly, and there's people from across the country that are going to help us learn how to work together towards economic success. What we really find is, we have our council and the way our council works and the way our city works and our bylaws and rules and regulations and how we do economics could be different from how Dakota Plains does economics. And we're looking for ways to look for funding together, to do partnerships together, to just move forward together, because we believe that collaborating and working together is going to be the key to our success. So we just started. We've had one meeting, and we have it's a 3-year program, so we just started, and we have workshops in December where they'll teach us more. Yeah.
I just want to add to that real quick. As a small independent Dakota nation, and where we were displaced to where we're at, I mentioned earlier that the swampland, and it's pretty hard to develop there. So we tried different economic development initiatives, but because it's a small market and there's no traffic, we've had to shut every business down out there. So this gives us an opportunity to hopefully partner. I mean, we did partner, but hopefully start some economic development initiatives in and around Portage that we can tap into and have our own source of revenues, so that we can take those revenues and build into our community better transportation services and those types of things. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. And so, like, for instance, Portage, we've had long-standing agreements with Long Plain, municipal service agreements for water, for fire, things like that. So we've already had those partnerships. And it's interesting, we sit around the table and we learn we're all at different places in economic development. But that means we can all learn from each other, right? And we can share resources and we can move forward together. I'm incredibly excited about it, what we're going to see in the future, because we're not going anywhere. And the more prosperous our city can be and our region can be, and the more prosperous our First Nations around us can be, the better we're going to be as a country.
Who knows what an urban reserve is? Okay, so it's a First Nation. It's a First Nation that's within the city limits. Sometimes right along the border, sometimes right in the city. We strongly believe that if we were left where we were in 1911, we probably, as a Dakota nation, and there was a lot of different families. It affected Sioux Valley, it affected Sioux Burkeville, and Dakota people, 5 nations, different families. We believe we would have been the first urban reserve. And if anybody knows about urban reserves, that's how First Nations can have own source revenues, money coming into their communities. Go home and Google urban reserves.
You're going to find one right on the edge of Portage, Prairie, Kishkimokau.
Yep. Kishkimokau.
So it's where the National Indigenous Residential School Museum resides. It's where the hotel like hotel, housing, etc. But with being so in close vicinity, it's easy to work together on different things.
Do you guys have any like further plans for the electric part, or you're kind of used to it?
So right now, the park, because there was the park out at Southport, right there, and they were doing ceremonial things there, and then when Southport was building that new building, it had to be closed, so they started doing lots of ceremonial stuff there throughout the summer. And I know that there's people working on plans for shelters, etc. Just nothing's come to any of us at this point.
Can I ask a piece of advice for the student population? What do you suggest our part of reconciliation, what does that look like for the students in the community? Maybe that's too vague, but.
Personally, I think it's just being here today, it's a start. It's the willingness to learn. Up until 2015, really, this stuff wasn't documented. A lot of our history as First Nations people is oral history. And so when they set up in 2015 to hear the stories, that was the first time anything was really documented. Up until that time, no one really knew whether it was true. You know, there was a lot of different, some people thought they were just tales. Just taking the time to learn, like she mentioned, the residential school museum. There's a lot of good information there. And I know it's real. My parents went, and I know some of the stories, and it's, it's hard for me to believe that some of those things happened, but they did. So it's just that willingness to learn. And like I said earlier, Canada is the only Western country to head in that direction, and I love my country of Canada, and I'm sure you do too. So just getting to learn and just doing your part. And a lot of it will be coming out now and being written. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, I believe, has a report. If you can get your hands, I'm sure you can Google it. I think it's all, for a while it's private, but now it's open to the public, so look at that and you'll see.
I would say, as one thing that I learned in the recent history or recent time is, as a non-Indigenous person, it is not Indigenous people's job to teach me. Okay? It's my role to learn things and understand things and do the due diligence of understanding and really understanding. So read things, you know. I'm sure in this room most people know what ChatGPT is. It's a really great access to information. I can't use it in class anymore. It's still a great thing. Like I use it, in my role I use it all the time because it's something that come up and maybe I don't want to listen to somebody who is giving me information that I don't think is true, right? It's a great tool to go, please explain this to me in the easiest of terms, right? And this is the way to do it. It doesn't mean you can't ask questions of your Indigenous friends. It doesn't mean that, but that's not, like, Chief Smoke doesn't have to spend his whole time helping me understand, right? You do learn by becoming friends and building relationships, but that we need to take that on ourselves and we need to take the time to learn things. And just be open, listen to each other, and understand that somebody's feelings and somebody's trauma is true. It's that simple, it's true. And we just have to find ways to move forward through it together.
I just want to add real quick, I'm also a school trustee, and I have a meeting tomorrow night, so I can't wait to brag about all of it. Thank you for hearing and paying attention.